Hey, how would you like to win $1,000? Well, you can by naming the 12 best national black athletes of all times in any sports. Submit your names to the Westside Gazette postmarked date and time and be eligible to win $1,000 by naming the 12 black national professional athletes of all times, men and women, in any sport. The family members and staff of the Westside Gazette cannot enter the contest.
Welcome to Just a Little Bit, brought to you in part by Destination Sis Trunk, Broward County Cultural Division, and Greater Fort Lauderdale Convention and Visitors Bureau. If you've been following us, then you know Just a Little Bit is just a little bit of what's happening in black news across the country, coming from the Westside Gazette, the NNPA, and all of its affiliate newspapers and other black media sources. And this week's Just a Little Bit, it is with profound sadness that we announce the death of Chadwick Boseman, an iconic black actor who died on Friday, August the 28th. Chadwick was, a lot of us know him as the Black Panther, and he played in the role of James Brown. But not only was Chadwick a profound and prolific actor, he was a great brother, community activist, and just a well-rounded black man in general. So when you're going through your day, just take a moment and say a prayer for his family. Along with that, brothers, if you haven't had a physical lately, please go to your doctors and get checked out. It's imperative that we are in constant reminder of our health. We need strong black soldiers, and that means having you physically fit. We all know how Donald Duck Trump and his imperialist thinking has caused this country to be on the verge of a civil war. The young man Kyle Rittenhouse, who in Kenosha, Wisconsin, during a protest, shot 3 people and killed 2 of them. Kyle was, the report says, suggested that this is nothing new to how Trump instigates and causes people of weak minds to react, rich and weak-minded people to react from a white supremacist point. And then Breonna Taylor's ex-boyfriend was offered a plea deal if he would claim that Taylor was part of an organized crime syndicate. Man, how low can you go? Joe Biden and Kamala Harris is launching a Shop Talk, a series to engage black men. Brothers, please don't be fooled by the Russians and their robotic tactics of trying to convince us that Trump is a better person than Joe Biden in running this country. There are a lot of things happening to confuse and cause us, or those who may not be so secure in knowing what is transpiring in this country, to lean to the side to believe that Donald Duck Trump is worth staying in the seat for another term. Also, LA cops shoot and kill Dijon Kizzy following an alleged bicycle code violation. Man, oh man, we don't stand a chance walking nor riding. There are 2 outstanding opinion pieces in this week's Westside Gazette. One of them by our own Rashid Baith. When Rashid writes, he is a man who thinks like a kindergartner. He thinks in colors, and he believes colors should oppose each other. That's just the beginning of that opinion piece. And the other one is, what you do to me, be careful. Nevertheless, the dreadful and disheartening effects of the pandemic, police killings, and the total disregard for the Trump administration towards black, brown, and poor people who are not totally isolated to the consequences. Read more in the Westside Gazette and other black media platforms. Thank you. When wishing won't work will, that came from a very old soul. one of our history people here in Fort Lauderdale, Miss Ada Moe. 40 on the 40 is 40 seconds of the history, faith, strength, and endurance of black people. We implore you to find out more about these historians. And this week we call back to remembrance the first black lawyer, John Mercer Langston, was the first black man to become a lawyer when he passed the bar in Ohio in 1854. He was elected to the post of the town clerk of Brownham, Ohio in 1885. Langston became one of the first African Americans ever elected to public office in America. John Mercer Langston was also the great uncle of Langston Hughes, the famed Harlem Renaissance poet. What happens to a dreams defer? Thank you. Growing our voices, where we get a chance to yakety yak when we talk to the youth, they talk back. We focus in on our young people. We want to listen to what they have to say. And joining me today is Kamar Jackson. Let's welcome Kamar Jackson to the stage. What's happening?
Good.
Tell me something about who are you?
Kamar Jackson.
Oh, can we hear you, Kamar Jackson?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so tell me what's happening with this virtual schooling. How is that going with you?
Well, it's kind of hard because there's glitches. It's kind of hard because there's glitches in the computer, and the computer takes too slow, and then you have to figure out what you want to say, and then all the other stuff.
All that other stuff. Right, okay. So Kamar, tell me a little something about what you like doing.
Math and science.
What's so interesting about math and science?
Science because it's like you discover knowledge of it. You know about that you never discovered before.
You find things that you never discovered before. Give me one example that you like, that you found out.
Like little kids now, things only one sort, the yellow sort, there's only three. Got the red, blue, and the yellow. The yellow is the weakest.
Tell me that one more time. Like, I just learned something.
There are three suns. You have the blue sun, the red sun, and the yellow sun. The yellow sun is the weakest star.
Wow, you know something? And my 65 years of living, I've never heard that before. You just taught me something. Okay, now tell me a little bit about math. What you like about math?
I like division, multiplication, expressions.
Expressions. What are expressions? Man, I've never heard that. Am I the only one not heard of expressions? Or am I that old school? Tell me about expressions, man.
So expressions are like, so you have parentheses, 5 times 3 parentheses, plus 2, plus another 5 parentheses equals, and you have to solve the problem.
You know, your mind is thinking in your hand. You sure you're not a scientist or a mathematician? Okay, tell me what else you like doing. What else?
I like playing football before. Because that means it's my aim when I got mad. So I'll just go and tackle people.
That's a good way to relieve your anger. Appropriate way. Now also, sailing. Tell me a little bit about sailing.
So sailing I learned how to sail a boat. They learned how to build it, how to go on their own. It was fun. But then one time we had to get into the lake and swim because we up along in the pool. In the lake, so then we had to like go down and see it. It was fun.
So let me understand. You can sail. You excel at mathematics, and you love science. Okay, tell me something about coding.
Coding. So coding is like this app at school that most kids use. So like you have a game and you can program in your own way. So then you can like make the button go up or left, you can change the music, you can change the setting, the scene, you can change where to go left, right, where you want everything to go.
So you mean to tell me you basically can create a game, and your skills of mathematics, science, and the coding, if you could create a game, what would you create?
I would create like a game that has like knowledge, like historical knowledge, you know? So basically, you'll get points from that. It's a trivia game. So you're gonna get points off of your historical knowledge.
Come on, I told you before I wanted to hire you at the office to work on our computers and to learn some other skills. And I still mean that. Okay. Now I also want you to understand that the sky is the limit of where you can go. But you have to stay in school and you have to maintain your grade average. You understand me?
Mm-hmm.
What am I saying?
You said I have to maintain your grade to A or B.
Okay. Okay. Anything else you want to say before you go?
No.
Are you sure?
Stay in school.
Stay in school? That's cool. Thank you, Kamar. All right. Welcome back to Just a Little Bit. My father once told me, he said, every bee cannot go into the hive to get honey. Some bees have to stay out on the outside. But if they're hanging around while the other bees are in the hive, some of the honey will fall off on them. In this particular segment, Sankofa, the word Sankofa means to go back to the past in order to move forward. It's a word in the Twa language of Ghana, and it translates to go back and get it and return to the future. So with that being said, I want to welcome back to Just a Little Bit our recently elected Democratic State Attorney, Mr. Harold Pryor. Welcome back, Mr. Pryor.
Good to be back.
Let me say congratulations, man.
Thank you, brother.
Okay. Now there's some questions I need to ask you. What does it mean from this point going to the next point? What do we have to do to keep you where we need you to be?
Well, we need to vote.
Okay.
That's first and foremost. That's the important thing. You know, a good friend of mine, Chevron Jones, he attributed it to his father. He said, if you don't have a seat at the table, then you're on the menu, right? And so how do we ensure that we, as people, have a seat at the table? We ensure that by actually showing up and showing out, right? Actually voting. You know, I spoke to people with the Biden-Harris campaign, and we all know this. You don't have to be a mathematician or political expert to know this. If we show up in Broward,
Yes.
we're gonna get the results that we want nationally.
And I should digress just a little and say who you are and the position that you're seeking. So you're Harold Pryor.
Yes.
And the position that you're seeking, Mr. Pryor, is what?
State Attorney, Broward County State Attorney.
And now, have we ever had a black state attorney?
No, unfortunately, we have not, and we have the opportunity to do that. When I'm elected, and I'm believing it, I'm speaking in existence. When I'm elected in November, and so this is an important race.
Yes.
And like I said, we're in a race for the soul and consciousness of Broward County, but not only Broward County, state of Florida, and the country. If you care about immigration, if you care about education, or my particular area, criminal justice reform, this is the race for you. This is why we need to show up and show out at the ballots.
And Mr. Pryor, I know sometimes when different people see people of color in power, they sometimes feel intimidated and for fear of perhaps in their conscience what they did if the same thing were to happen if a person of color were in office. How do you stand on that? How do you flip that?
Well, the reason why I got into this race is to ensure equity, right? Ensure we bring fairness and justice back into the criminal justice system. Look, it doesn't matter what color you are, doesn't matter where you grew up, doesn't matter where you live. I've often said, doesn't matter if you live right here off of Sistrunk, if you live at Lighthouse Point, right over there off of Los Olas, or Hollywood, Dania Beach, we all want safer communities. I don't care your race, color, creed, sexual orientation, what have you. We all want safer communities.
Yes, we do.
That's first and foremost. And we need a criminal justice system that ensures that equity, and that's why I'm running. It's irrespective of color. It doesn't matter if you're black or white. We need a criminal justice system that's fair and equitable for all people.
Now, Mr. Pryor, you came out of a field of maybe 5 different candidates.
Yeah.
Okay, so how are you using that to your benefit or to the benefit of the people?
Well, you know, some people think when you have a 8-person race or a crowded race like we had, some people think, well, you're beating up on each other and you can weaken the candidate. I think it actually strengthens it because you have dynamic and robust discussions on all the issues that are affecting our communities. And then whoever comes out of that hat, I think you come out stronger. I think you come out as a stronger candidate. Luckily for me, I've been able to secure the endorsement of all of my opponents. Everyone that's been in my primary, they have endorsed me and are ready to support me in the general election.
Okay, so it's a wise, that was a wise decision. The people that you ran against are now supporting you.
They're all supporting me. They all have pledged their support and endorsement of me. And I think that's a testament of the race that I ran. I didn't throw any mud. I didn't feel that we needed to because there was just too many important issues at stake. Like I said, we're in a race for the soul and consciousness of Broward County. And so it was important for us as a campaign to focus on the issues than the individual. Right.
Speaking of issues, man, this thing with the brothers say just us, and meaning that it's only just us in the system. So how do you propose to combat that?
Well, one of the things I've always said, and I you know, unfortunately, but I wore it as a badge of honor because I understood that there was so much weight on my shoulders, and this is why I was compelled to get in the race. I had family members who were in and out of the criminal justice system. I had cousins, uncles, even brother, who've been in and out of the system, who were victim of the system. If it was either for low-level offenses that you had no business going to jail for, or even going to prison, or whether you had a mental health issue or drug addiction issue. And we saw criminal justice system treat them less than because of the color of their skin or zip code where we grew up. And so I think we need state attorneys, elected officials, law enforcement officers who actually understand the communities that they serve and actually want to help, right? And so I think that my unique perspective on the criminal justice system, both lived and learned also professionally, having served as a prosecutor, I could bring that level of equity to ensure that it's not just us, right? That it's spread across the board fairly, right? That we're not putting people in prison for low-level offenses, or not just low-level offenses, but offenses that they shouldn't be going to prison for or jail for. And so I think we just have to have prosecutors that understand that and are willing to do that and understand our communities. And that's my plan, to recruit a diverse state attorney's office.
Okay. Now for those who might not understand exactly what the state attorney, what his job entails, give us just a brief, low-level understanding.
Well, I'll say this, and in all due respect to the sheriff candidates or Sheriff Tony, the chief law enforcement officer in any circuit is in fact the state attorney. People always say the sheriff because they have a gun, right?
Right.
But if you look at the Constitution, I'm a chief law enforcement officer in the county. And why is that? Because I have an important power. Inherently, I decide what cases are brought, what charges are brought against an individual. So a sheriff or a law enforcement officer can arrest someone and say they committed this particular crime, but the buck stops at my desk. I can decide, okay, what grade or level is this, right? Is this a first-degree felony? Is this a second-degree felony? Is this a third-degree felony? Is it a misdemeanor? Or is it a case that we just decide not to file, right? That's an important power. And so as state attorney in any circuit, and particularly in Broward County for which I'm running, we make all criminal charges filing decisions. We make those decisions, whether it be the misdemeanor offense, right? DUI or possession of cannabis, or driving while license suspended, all the way to homicide, right? To premeditated murder. And so that's an important power and function in this county. And we're ready to do that. We're ready to take charge of that and ensure that we have an equitable and fair justice system for all people.
Okay. Now, the last time you were here, we jokingly talked about your punishment and going in the watermelon.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And how that incident created, your understanding of diversity.
Yep.
Now, be that as it is, we need people to understand that your position is blinded from the color. It's yes. Based upon equity and fairness, not equality. And I'm saying this because if you picture two kids going to a baseball game to watch a baseball game, and they're at a fence, one kid is tall enough that he can look over the fence, and the other kid needs a box to stand on. So they bring a box. They give both of them the same size box, but it's still not big enough for that little kid to look over the fence while the other one is. So,
Exactly.
Now, I said all that to say this: how young folk are coming into the penal system alarmingly, looking like me and you. So.
Well, here's a stifling and alarming statistic. Black youth in Broward County make up nearly 40% of the youth population in Broward County, right? Of the youth arrests.
Excuse me?
Yes.
You said black and brown?
Black and brown make up about 40% of the youth population. So that's a start. Of the arrest of youth offenders, right? Or alleged youth offenders, 75% are black youth.
From a 40% percentile of the population, which 75%.
We make up 75% of our youth, right? And so what does that say? Well, first it goes to the over-policing of our communities, first and foremost, right? Our communities are over-policed. Secondly, it goes to an underlying issue, not only just in the criminal justice system, but in what we call America and how we view our black youth. If you tend to look at a young black kid as a threat or as a hyper criminal, or you base it based on the color of their skin and the clothes that they're wearing, then you as a law enforcement officer, or even a prosecutor, you're probably going to be heavy-handed in your sentencing. You're probably not going to look at that case like you would some kid that grew up in Lighthouse Point or on East Los Olas, right? And so we need to have a criminal justice system that looks at these two children blindly, that will give that black youth the second, third, sometimes fourth chance that maybe his white counterpart may get. And that's what I want. I just want an equitable system for all children. And so we have to develop and protect programs like Promise Program. The ideal Promise Program, I think, is great. It's perfect in the sense that we want to keep our children out of the criminal justice system for behavioral related issues, right? I don't know about you, Bobby, but I threw quite a few spitballs in school, right?
Who, me?
No, right. And did a lot of other things and got in fights on campus. I don't think it warranted me being placed into the criminal justice system or juvenile justice system. And so I'll be the first to admit Promise Program isn't perfect, but I'm committed to protecting it, and I'm committed to perfecting it to ensure that our black and brown youth, but not just our black and brown youth, but all youth are given a second chance and not placed in the system.
Okay, Mr. Pryor, the relationship between the state attorney and the sheriff and the city of police chief, how is that? Are they to work together, or is it a conflict? Or
There can be a conflict. There can be a conflict, but it depends on who you have in office. And so I can tell everyone that you're going to have an independent thinking, independent minded state attorney. Just because you have a badge on, just because you're law enforcement, if you commit a crime, if you commit some level of misconduct that's contrary to Florida law, we're going to prosecute you, right? And you're not going to get any special treatment. You'll be treated just the same as Joe Schmo on the street who commits the same or similar crime, right? And I think that's important for us as state attorneys. We have to have that level of independence. We have to eliminate any level of impropriety, and we need to hold everyone accountable, and then irrespective if you have a badge on or not.
Okay. Now let's just use a current example, and how would a state attorney role fit into, for instance, the Breonna Taylor incident, or even George Floyd, or the most recent one. What's the brother? Kiss. I pronounced his name wrong. I want to say it right. In the LA cop shooting, who killed Dejan Kizzy. So how would that?
Well, I will go historically in the criminal justice system and how they treat police, law enforcement, misconduct, or killings. In any circuit in Florida, and I can only speak for Florida, if it's involving a capital offense, a premeditated murder, right? Doesn't care if you're a law enforcement officer or you're just you and me on the street. If we commit a premeditated murder or a first degree murder or offense, it has to go to a grand jury. that's out of my hands as far as my discretionary role, having the power to make those decisions. But anything less than that, I don't have to submit that to a grand jury. And so one thing I've said on the campaign trail, if there's any level of police misconduct or police impropriety, I'm not going to hide behind the veil of a grand jury. And so for those of your viewers that may not know, grand jury proceedings are sealed, right? Far too often, state attorneys not only in Florida but around the country have said, oh, it's a police misconduct related case. Let's submit it to the grand jury, right? And then when you're done, oh, my hands are up. I submitted it to the grand jury. They made the decision, and those records are sealed. So I can't share that information with you. And we know why they do it, because they're lock and step with law enforcement agencies. They're giving them that preferential treatment. Back to the accountability thing, and back to me wanting to be an independent justice seeker. We won't submit police misconduct cases that I have discretion. We will not submit those to grand juries. We're going to make those decisions, and I'm going to be open to scrutiny. The moment I decide to bring charges against a law enforcement officer, I'm ready to stand up and speak to the law enforcement unions and tell them why I made that decision. But the moment I decide not to, I'll sit right here and talk to you and explain to you why I came to that decision, and we can disagree to that. But I think that's an important function of a state attorney. You have to be willing to stand on your word, be consistent, right, and be able to communicate that to the people. And so that's my plan. That's my plan.
Well, Mr. Pryor, it's always a pleasure to talk with you. And I want to commend you from looking on the outside of how you ran your race.
Thank you.
No beholding to anybody, and for a man to stand on his own, that means something. So I'm commending you for that. And
Thank you, brother.
I would hope that you continue to do the same thing that you did to get to this point.
Yes.
And we have to make sure that you're able to go on. So we're going to start a grassroots fundraising drive, to at least give something to your campaign.
Thank you.
To show that we believe in you.
Thank you. Thank you. And look, it's a two-way street in the sense that I want you to hold me accountable.
Oh man, you ain't getting this.
Hold me accountable,
Yeah.
And you have my number.
I got it.
And that's why I'm here. And I want to keep coming back. I want to make this a monthly thing.
Okay.
After I'm elected as well, to just ensure that you hold my feet to the fire, and I'm keeping the community abreast of what's going on, so they know that we're actually doing our job and we'll hold it true.
Thank you very much, brother.
Yes, brother. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Welcome back to Just a Little Bit. And this segment is What's Up, where we talk about what's going on in the community. This particular episode will be about something new that's happening with the Westside Gazette and its 2-minute warning. So let's welcome to the stage our data guru, Mr. Perry Busby. As always, Perry, it's a pleasure, man, to engage you in conversation. And I understand that the Westside Gazette, along with you as the host, is doing something new coming up.
Yes, I'm excited and truly humbled. We are going to host the 2-minute warning. Okay. Yes, we're going to host a 2-minute warning. That begins next Tuesday, September 8th, and it's going to run through Friday, September 11th. So I'm excited about it. We're bringing some of the nation's best investigative journalists in the area of elections and some election integrity advocates that are known throughout the country to share with us the tools that we are going to need for this election.
And boy, what tools we truly need in this coming up election. I see that the Russians are at it, and so are some other people who look like you and I, creating some confusion.
Yes, this election is really going to be about chaos. It's going to be about uncertainty. And to be honest, we should not take this lightly. Everything under this administration has been an absolute failure. And this election will be no different.
You know something, Perry, I certainly appreciate the fact that we are going to address this in the 2-minute warning fashion. And just as in football, when you have those 2 minutes, you got certain plays you have to run, and you have to stick to the script.
Yes, unfortunately, though, we really don't have a good defense. And we've got a good offense. We hear everyone making initiatives to get people to the poll. But, Bobby, this election is about a ballot box. And that ballot box is a technology box. And in the last election, Mueller said this was the result of an orchestrated cyber attack. We have done everything with the Trump administration, from take it to court to fight it on Capitol Hill, but we have yet to address the technology problems that are involved in our election, and they are serious.
Okay. And brothers and sisters, you know, technology. We got technology in the pocket, but we got to put it to our feet and get to the polls to vote and to make sure that our vote counts. No matter what technology that they're trying to throw at us, we got to combat that with information. And we can use your help. At the end of the day, when the polls are in and the poll tapes are up, we need you to go out and take photos of those poll tapes. And there are other things you can do. And I'm sure, Perry, that you're going to inform us on the things necessary for us to do.
Yes, I am. I'm really excited. As I said, we have some of the nation's best investigative journalists and advocates who have spent more than 20 years on this, and they have some really critical information. We just got through fighting a court decision here in Broward County, of which I was a part, where now it is still in doubt whether or not we're going to keep the ballot images in the November election. We know that in November, the state has agreed, or at least Broward has agreed, that if there is a presidential runoff, that will be the only time they use a ballot image. So now your vote is now in the hands of whether or not we have a runoff in Florida in the presidential election.
Lord, don't bring us back to the hanging chad. Well, Perry, I certainly appreciate it, and we do understand it's the ballot or the bullet, and you got a 2-minute warning to take advantage of it.
And we are in the 2-minute warning.
Thank you, my brother. Hey, reminding you that Just a Little Bit is brought to you in part by Destination Sistrunk, Broward County's Cultural Division, and Greater Fort Lauderdale Convention and Visitors Bureau. Destination Sistrunk is a door to explore Black history and heritage in Greater Fort Lauderdale. For more information, please visit www.destinationsistrunk.com. And remember, it's all good in the hood. And if you want to join the show, please give me a call at 954-605-8107. 954-605-8107. We welcome you.